Chrissy from Chrissy Clucky Chronicles, and today we're going to be talking about roosters. Yeah, I heard you, Lynn. We're going to talk about roosters, rooster spurs, what spurs are for, when to trim them, do you need to trim them, should you trim them, how far do you trim them, and what can you use to trim them. It's all personal preference, but we're going to try to do our absolutely best today to kind of give you a little bit of helpful tips and a little bit of a how-to. And we're going to be working with our favorite Roo today, which is Nana Roo, because he is such a good Roo. And he's such a wonderful model. And we appreciate him. And we love working with his little crooked toesies. Anyway, we'll have to worry about spurs with girls, because none of my girls have spurs. Now, is it possible for some to have some spurs? I suppose it is. Depends on the breed and the chicken. But I'm thankful for you. I'm glad that you're here following and subscribing and watching us on all this feathered brain goodness. You got that in duo. Alright, so we're going to talk to Nana Roo just a little bitty bit here. He may crow every once in a while. Nana Roo was born with a... I'm telling them, buddy, he was born with a genetic deformity. He has deformed feet. They've been like that since birth. It has not really impeded his walking. He cannot run. And he has been able to father. That's right, buddy. You've been able to have some babies. You sure have. Well, anyway, let's talk about your spurs, okay? Because your spurs are kind of long. As you notice, he's in molt right now. He's molting. So, Nana Roo, you look kind of rough. And I'm sorry about that. But you're still sexy to the hens. I know, buddy, I know. You're still sexy to the hens, and it's all good. It's all, yeah, it's good. It's fine. So, let's talk about spurs. So, these... little spurs, it's the bony projections that's on the leg of the roosters. Yep, that right there. That is it. Now they use it for defense, mating. They also, I know you're the boss. It establishes dominance within a flock. Now, spurs, they grow continuously. It's part of their leg and their system, and it just varies depending on the age and the breed, on their length. That's what it just depends on. Now, some people say leave the spurs alone. It's up to you. These are, if you have your own flock, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I am going to tell you what I do with my good boys, especially my good Nana Roo. I'm going to tell you what we do for him, primarily because he is deformed and he is crippled. So when he goes into molt, I do tend to trim his spurs because of the fact they can hinder his ability to walk, and he can not only harm himself because of the way his feet are twisted, but he can also hurt other Roos. Now, after molt, I've noticed with my Nana Roo, he loves to talk to y'all. His spurs grow very rapidly after a molt. So, you know, if it becomes too excessively sharp, long, it's important for me to trim them for Nana Roo, because I don't want him to get injured, and I don't want him to injure anybody else or injure any of his girls that he loves so much. You're such an awesome baby. Yes, you are. Do you want to go back? All right, let's go take him back.
Yeah.
Now, with everything that we do with the roosters, well, there's Bobby over there, you want to make sure that you're going to handle them very gently, because even though roosters can be defensive, especially mine, when you're messing with their spurs and their feet, you still got to handle them with care, and you got to handle them with, you know, respect. So there's a level of care and a level of respect that you have to literally do with these guys, just because of the fact that they require it, just like we do. They don't want to be rough handled. Now, if you have some aggressive roosters, you're going to make sure that you've got some face gear on, because I've been bit. And that one right there bit me. He got loose from us while we were checking him and fixing, you know, see if he had any mites, and we were dusting him. And he turned around and bit me in the face and split my lip.
What?
Now, Lynn is not typically aggressive, but you still have to treat them with respect and make sure that you're patient with them. Lynn's one of the worst ones for us to catch because he is our security guard out here. Now, with him being the security guard out here, he feels an obligation to make sure that everybody is doing their thing and there's no predators or anybody out here. And sometimes he views me as a big mama boss predator. So make sure that even though they're roosters, you still got to be delicate with them. And you want to make sure that when you're trimming their spurs, it doesn't matter what you decide to trim them with. It doesn't matter. They make all types of tools and all types of things. And I could show you a list of tools and a list of things. It's not going to do any good because unless you are familiar with using the tools and working with the tools, I don't know what's going to work best for you. Now, for me personally, I have a specialized Dremel style tool that is actually made with a stone for trimming rooster spurs. Now, if you're using stones and you're trimming rooster spurs and you're grinding them down, you got to make sure those things don't get too hot. Because if it gets too hot, it can burn them, burn the bird. It can be very uncomfortable. And I mean, nobody wants heat. I mean, these spurs generate a lot of friction, right?
Yeah.
So there's different types of tools that you use. And another thing is once you trim that spur down, if you see like a little pink dot, stop. Thank you, Lynn. He's telling you to stop. Once you see a pink dot in the center of that spur, that's the quick. You don't want them to bleed. You don't want to give them infections. And you just need to not, you know, just to stop. Now, your version of trimming is going to be different from my version of trimming. I just like to round the spurs and shorten them, soften them up so that they're not sharp. If I do take off any amount of length, I'm extremely careful to know what kind of length am I taking off, what am I doing, how am I doing it, what tool am I using, because sometimes I don't use the grinder. Sometimes I just, you know, trim it off with one of my other little tools. You can, you know, do whatever, but just avoid cutting it into the quick. So make sure you're checking for bleeding. You can apply stypic powder to stop the bleeding. If you have cut them too far, make sure you're just monitoring them. If you do accidentally get a little bit of blood so that they don't get infections, watch for redness and any kind of goopy discharge or swelling. You know, and you can just repeat trimming spurs as they need it. I mean, they don't need it all the time. Just as they need it. And again, this your flock, your rules. It's up to you completely. So if you're unsure about trimming, then, you know, you might want to seek a poultry vet or a veterinarian that does this, or somebody that is good with bird feet and bird spurs. There's plenty of people all over the place. So you want to make sure that you're doing all of these things and you're helping them, you're helping you, and it all works out great. So if you want to know a little bit more about trimming spurs, it's all going to be on the blog on ChrissyOShow.com. Now, my quail, my boy quail, they don't have spurs. You see Jeffrey, number 5. They don't have spurs. That's my pretty little boy right there. Well, he just ran away. Thank you, Jeffrey. He at least gave me 5 seconds of fame. But anyway, my other girls, obviously, no spurs. The boy quail, no spurs. But because bob whites are, you know, they're a wild bird and they're ground birds and all that good stuff, you don't really trim them anyway. You just leave them be. Leave them alone. I haven't seen any spurs on the boys. They don't use that anyway. And even if they had spurs, I would leave them alone. So if they decide to grow spurs, that's fine. I'm gonna leave them alone. Just they're having a buffet. We've just got all types of things going on out here. But you can tell the girls, the lighter brown girls versus the guys with the really bright, dark heads with the pretty white stripes on them. But they're just cute. Generally, they are just adorable. They're just cute. But no, we don't trim spurs on Quail. Alright, now over here at the Rooster Bachelor Pad, we have Heather and Charlie, Carolyn, and Denise, and they're very aggressive roos. That's why they're over here by themselves. We've done a whole episode on this before. But anyway, in talking about them, as far as trimming spurs go with these guys, sometimes we get to do it and sometimes we don't. And the reason why is sheer aggression. It's just aggression. Now, it takes several of us in here to capture said roosters. And when they're aggressive like this, you have got to be so super careful with them. Because as you can see, he's trying to flare up at me right now. And he's just super not having it. He's super angry. Normally it's Carolyn, but because this is Carolyn's child, you'll see him shuffle. And you'll see him like try to come at me a little bit. And even if I were to do like my hand a little bit, he's already in a mood. And I haven't even done anything other than just wave at him. And he's got that eye pinning going on. Sometimes we can't trim their spurs, and it is what it is. And some people just don't like to trim spurs. I do if it's safe to go in there, because I never know. And we have a rule about going into the rooster pad. Nobody goes into this rooster pad by themselves. You have to take a buddy with you, because of the fact that they are so super aggressive and they are so jumpy, kicky, stabby. We don't want injuries, because we've had a lot of injuries in our legs from these particular aggressive boys. Well, you're lying because you did it. We got holes in our legs and scars from you. I don't even want to hear it. So, sometimes, like I say, sometimes we can get to them. Sometimes we don't. And it is what it is. And it's up to you. Do you want to trim your spurs on your chickens? Now, if you have free-range chickens and wild chickens, they're going to do it themselves, or they're just going to curl over. But for me, because we do have, even though we have these large pens where they can free range to a degree, there's just some that I can't do. And this particular pen, I'm not even going to do some days because I can't. Yeah, you're an angry roo. That's what you are. You're an angry roo. Well, y'all, that's going to do it for today. I hope that you got some helpful information out of trimming spurs. Again, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your flock, because every flock is different. Every bird is different. Every chicken tender, pun included, is different. You do what you need to do and what you feel like is best for your birds. It doesn't matter if they're pets, if they're free range, if they're not free range, if they're in a large fenced in area, if whatever, it doesn't matter. You do what you feel is necessary for your roosters when it's trimming spurs. Now, can I say what the absolute correct method is? No, but what I can tell you is to make sure that you're not cutting it down into the quick, and you're not ripping it off of their leg and causing a lot of blood. As long as they're not getting infected and you're not cutting into the quick and you're just doing what you need to do as far as spur maintenance, that's on you. That's it. Literally, that's it. So you do you, boo. And I hope you don't get spurred. But if you did, it is what it is. I got spurred too a bunch of times. I've got permanent scars on my legs from holes from aggressive roosters. But I digress. Anyway, I am so ready to get in there and work on these rooster spurs. I did not show you how I did it because I didn't really want to. And sometimes people who watch videos are like, oh, you did it wrong. Oh, I'm gonna, you know, report this or take this down. So I'm not gonna show you anything, but I can at least tell you about it. And I can at least tell you about spurs. But I will put in a little bit of information for you in pictures. How about that? That'll be on my blog, ChrissyOShow.com. Anyway, be good, be you, be fabulous, and be flocktastic. Be so clucking wonderful every single day that you won't even be able to stand your own self.
Yeah.
That's right. Too much meanness in the world. We got to do better, and we got to do good. Not only by our animals, but by ourselves and other people. So, I heart y'all great big. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I will see you on the next vlog. Okay? Alright. Behave yourself. Bye.